This is Katrin with Disability Rights New York. Welcome to our podcast, Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned. We are here to bring you information on the most relevant topics regarding disability rights and advocacy. Today we have Andrew Prinzing, Board Vice President at Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition. He's here to discuss the services provided by ECRJC. Hi, Andrew. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Andrew, let's start off by asking about the mission of the Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition.
Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition provides direct services and training around restorative practices to schools and communities. Basically, we believe the best way to repair the harm is to build relationships, and then when there is conflict, bring people together who have been impacted and who've caused the harm, and to have a structured conversation about what happened and what's the best way to repair the harm.
And I suppose we should back up, and for those of our audience who are not familiar with the term restorative justice, can you give us a background on what that actually means?
Thanks for asking that. There is a lot of people use the term restorative justice and restorative practices interchangeably. Restorative justice is a term that's come out of the courts, and it's a process where you bring together the people who were responsible for creating the harm and the people who have been harmed, and you have them bring their support people with them, and you have a structured conversation about what happened, what people were thinking, how people been impacted, and what's the best way to repair the harm. And it really is a victim-centered process, so the victim has to want to participate, and also the people responsible for creating the harm must take responsibility, and they also must want to participate. It's a completely voluntary process. And in schools and in courts now, it can be used to keep people from penetrating the criminal justice system, or it can also be used in schools to avoid unnecessary time spent out of the class, whether that's in school or out of school suspension. And then restorative practices, it's a much bigger continuum, and it's a set of skills that we teach. A lot of the social emotional skills that schools teach. Restorative practices are all the things that we do to build relationships. So, for example, if a student in a school, when they walk in Monday morning, takes part in a community building circle with their peers, and they all just check in with how their weekends were, that would be an example of a restorative practice that students could participate in weekly. And it's through these activities that we're building capacity in youth to reflect, express themselves, and build social awareness and personal awareness too.
And do you find that those type of restorative practices are helping to not only build community, but also they're impacting the community that they're in, so that it would impact actually the rate of crime?
Yeah, so there's more research in New York State around stuff that's been going on in schools. But typically, if you look at national data around schools that roll out restorative practices, you can see a decrease in office discipline referrals, anywhere from 40 to 80% in schools that are rolling this out building-wide. And then when you have less office referrals, you're also seeing a decrease in suspensions as well. And I think in courts, it's just starting to be used throughout the state more often, and what's really prompting that is the change in legislation that Governor Cuomo signed last October, Raise the Age legislation, which that law changed where we were the second last state in the country where 16 and 17-year-olds had their crimes being heard in criminal court. Now those 16-year-olds, their cases are being heard in family court, and the 17-year-olds will start this upcoming October. So, and that's really prompted a lot of communities to start looking at building their own capacity to use restorative justice conferencing to handle the increase in cases coming through family courts.
And so I know you said this is a victim-centered process. Is there also data that reflects that the restorative justice process also is impacting recidivism?
Yes. So there's a report. If you Google restorative justice literature review in U.S. schools, there's a lot of data in that report. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe data says something like 80% of the people that participated in a conference, whether they were victims or offenders, are reported having a positive experience. And again, the the data as far as like seeing a decrease in violent or disruptive incidences. Collectively, I think the data is looking at like reductions of around 40 to 80%, depending on how it's being used.
Wow, that's a great statistic. Now, talk to us a little bit about why the ECRJC was created and the steps that were taken to create it.
So in 2012, there was an attorney who worked at the Legal Aid Bureau in Buffalo, and she brought together people in the community to just have some conversations around what restorative justice was, and then we brought in some outside trainers to train a group of people, and then they started just holding these weekly practice sessions to build their own skill set as facilitators. And the idea was that we were going to be getting more cases from court and schools with youth. What happened is that in Buffalo, we really didn't see a lot of probation, law enforcement, or judges. There wasn't a system in place, and so there weren't a lot of cases. But where it did take off is schools started looking at using these practices to reduce disproportionality in New York State, as well as across the country. We know that students with disabilities, students of color, also students from the gay, lesbian, bisexual group are suspended at higher rates than their white middle-class peers for similar offenses. And the Office of Civil Rights wanted to raise that up and said, what are we doing? We are suspending students from these groups at disproportionate rates. And there wanted to be a higher level of a conversation to really have schools look more critically at what was happening, because some of these practices were needlessly overly punitive towards certain populations of students. So what happened in Buffalo is more schools wanted to get trained, and I think now in Buffalo and Erie County, our coalition has worked in the past 2 years with close to 40 schools training their staff to use restorative practices.
So it sounds like, even though the practices were started to address the needs of victims and bringing the offenders in, it sounds like it's really also been an educational tool for the organizations, the schools that are using it to help really level the playing field and no longer look at marginalized groups differently.
Yeah, and that's been our experience. Schools really where it took off, but also as part of now the Raise the Age legislation, we are starting to see more cases in Erie County, which is where Buffalo is. We've actually had 19 referrals from probation and family court since February 1st, and we're using volunteers now to facilitate conferences with people, with these youth coming through these family court cases. So it is starting to now pick up with family court.
That's fantastic. Can you talk to us a little bit about what services are provided at ECRJC?
Yeah, so we offer training. We'll do specific trainings to schools, or we'll provide a community training where we'll just make it open to the public. And then at those community trainings, we usually, like a third of the people are from schools, but then we also get people from churches and community groups, and as well as just families who wanted to learn these practices to help their youth and kids. And then the other thing that we do is that we're currently participating in a family court pilot. So the Department of Probation in Erie County can refer cases to us after arrests have been made while youth are in that period where their cases are being processed. And if we can bring people together before the court date, we can try to create an agreement to repair the harm. And when we've been able to meet, so far, every time we've met, we've been able to resolve the case, and we've prevented, or we've resolved the issue so that the need to go to court wasn't necessary. Just the last thing is that there could be conflicts in the community where we were called last month by a school where they had 9 youth got into a fight with a group of other youth from another school. And so the school called us up and wanted to know if we would help them facilitate a conversation with the youth and parents about what happened and to create a plan to prevent further escalation between these two groups of kids.
That's great. What a great example of how this is working. Can you talk to us about how ECRJC collaborates with other services? And specifically, are there any collaborations that DRNY does with ECRJC?
So for The Disability Rights New York group. In the past year, I've been learning more about the group. Myself and Dina Thompson, one of our other trainers, we just presented at the state conference, and we're looking to get more involved with the Special Education Task Force in Western New York. Other collaborations that we currently have, working with schools. We also work with, there's an interfaith coalition called Voice Buffalo, and then we also are supporting 3 practice sessions in Buffalo where people can show up, and whether they've been trained or they just want to learn, there's 3 nights a month at different churches where people can go and just practice participating in a conference so they can see what it's like and they can practice being a facilitator. And we're using those practice sessions to kind of vet people who want to actually be lead facilitators for cases. And as far as other collaborations, we're a coalition, so we're always looking to partner up with groups, and it really is amazing. Conflict is something that is part of our, humanness. So wherever there's conflict, we can use these practices. So it's been very interesting to see how groups have asked us to help them, whether it's been coaching them or modeling something or just helping their staff get trained.
Now, I know you talked a little bit about the pilot project you're working in family court with. Are there any other projects that you're working towards currently?
So the family court, there's also that coalition involves the Department of Probation, Department of Social Services, and the Center for Resolution and Justice, which is one of the 30 mediation centers in New York State.
All right, can you tell us where ECRJC is located and what are its hours of operation?
So I work for the Center for Resolution and Justice through a partnership with ECRJC, and we are located at the Tri-Main building, which is located at 2495 Main Street. We're on the 3rd floor, Suite 357. And then also ECRJC has an office at Renovation Church, which is in North Buffalo, 567 Hurdle Avenue.
And so how can someone contact ECRJC if they have any questions about its services?
They can go to our website, which is www.ecrjc.org. We have a Facebook page. You can just go to Facebook and look at Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition, or they can shoot me an email if they want, andrew.prinzing, which is PRINZING, @gmail.com.
Great, and we will have all of that information listed at the end of this podcast. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you and hearing more about your work. Give us some updates as things go on.
Thank you very much. This is great. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned has been brought to you by Disability Rights New York, your source for disability rights and advocacy. If you enjoyed our program, and we hope you did, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this post. If there is a subject you would like us to discuss, please email podcast@drny.org or comment below. Tune in next time where we'll bring you more information on disability rights in the state of New York. The closed captioned version of this podcast is available on our YouTube channel. Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned is also available on iTunes and Spotify.